Started, and we're recording. So let's just go through a couple different types of problems. I've only got one viewer, which is okay. I'll record and put this online later. So first one we're going to try is just a basic absolute value problem. We're going to try the absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals, let's go with 7. Okay, so we're going to try absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals 7. So looking at your test, I mean, it's broken up into the entire first section. That's probably the largest section. There are a bunch of problems in which you are not allowed to use the quadratic formula at all. Okay, so that could be problems like this one, where it's just an absolute value, so you'd have no desire to use the quadratic formula anyway. So like, don't get confused by that. But there will be some on there where you have to use the whole completing the square process. Okay, and then you'll have another section where you have to use quadratic formula, and then to end the test, it'll be a couple problems where you can choose whatever, and then the discriminant will be on there too. Okay, so looking at this problem, again, the way that you solve an absolute value is you first you set up two equations, one equal to positive, one equal to negative. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do first. So I just basically wrote the same thing twice, except once to positive, once to negative, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing in both of them. I'm going to subtract 2, followed by dividing by 3. So I'm just going to do that in both, and then I'll hold up and show you my work. You are more than welcome, and I would even recommend that you leave answers in fractions. That seems to just make the most sense to me, because I think they allow you to have exact answers. Now, you need to simplify your fractions, and if they simplify to a whole number, then just write the whole number. But I don't know. I seem to think fractions are easier, but maybe I'm the only one. So there's what we should get. You should be getting x equals 5/3 and x equals -3. Okay, so hopefully that one wasn't really too terrible for you. Next, we're just going to step it up a notch. Now, these will not necessarily be in this order on your test, but this seems to be the easiest way to make sure that we get everything that we need covered. So we're going to do 2x plus 1 quantity squared equals 25. So we're going to do this one next. 2x plus 1 squared equals 25. Okay. I am down to, I was down to no viewers, now I went back up to 1 viewer. People coming in and out, I guess. So again, if you're just getting here, we're doing 2x plus 1 squared equals 25. So, I mean, again, I really don't think this test is actually too bad. It's not really meant to trick you. The hardest stuff is, not getting flustered when you get decimal answers, because you're going to get some decimal answers. That's just what it is, okay? You're going to get some decimal answers because most numbers, when you take a square root, don't turn out really nicely. Many do, sometimes they don't, okay? So just don't get freaked out by that. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. That comes first because we need to get rid of the squared. And that gives us the absolute value of 2x plus 1 equals 5. Now this is exactly like the last problem. Okay, so we're going to split it into 2. 2x plus 1 equals 5. 2x plus 1 equals -5. And then in both, we're going to subtract 1 and divide by 2. So from the first one, we'll get 2x equals 4, divide by 2, x equals 2. And in the second one, we're going to subtract 1 and get 2x equals -6, divide by 2, x equals -3. And that's what we've got. Okay, cruising right along. Now let's actually get to the ones that have maybe a little something to it. Not a lot something to it, but a little something to it, okay? So now we're going to start off with ones that actually look like quadratics, okay? So no using quadratic formula here yet. We don't want to do that just yet. Okay, so we're going to try x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 36. Okay, so you're going to try doing this one, and again, do not use quadratic formula on this one, even though, of course, I know that you could. Okay? Also, don't forget the quadratic formula. Make sure you have that memorized. Even if you have to just memorize it and write it down on the first page of your test, as soon as you get it, then do that. I mean, that to me seems to make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so nothing wrong with writing that down right away and make sure you know how to use it. But I mean, again, if you write down the quadratic formula wrong and you use it a lot, I mean that could really cause some problems. So just be a little bit careful about that. Okay. Okay, for this one, I'm sure many of you subtracted 16 from both sides first just out of habit, but you don't need to. It's already a perfect square trinomial because half of -8 is -4. -4 squared is 16. So we can go ahead and factor that right away. If you didn't factor right away, you'll end up seeing this step show up a few steps down the road in your problem. So you should get x minus 4 quantity squared equals 36. Then you should square root both sides, and we should get the absolute value of x minus 4 equals 6. Then we should split it. X minus 4 equals 6. X minus 4 equals -6. Add 4 to both sides, and we get x equals 10 and x equals -2. Woot. So it should be 10 and -2 in case you can't read my terrible handwriting, especially that 10. I'm writing on top of my laptop, so that's probably not helping anything. Okay, let's do one that's got a whole lot to it this time, okay? Let's make life a little bit challenging on ourselves and try something that's a little tricky. Okay, so again, do not use the quadratic formula on this one, please. Okay, okay. We're going to do, I'm sure we've done this problem before too, 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Do this without the use of the quadratic formula. Okay? Okay. I will give you a few seconds to do that, and in fact, I will probably take out my calculator while I try to do this because I think I can actually do all this square rooting and stuff in my head. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to try to do it without the calculator. So you should get, your small hint, I guess, is that you should get pretty nice answers here. Okay, not great ones, not all whole numbers or anything like that, but you should get some pretty nice numbers here. Okay, so let's make life easy. Got to divide everything by 2 first. Okay, if you added the 6 first, it all turns out the same way, but make sure you divide everything by 2. So we get x squared minus 1/2 x minus 3 equals 0, and I wrote 1/2 as a decimal. Okay, now you can go through completing the square. This is not currently a perfect square trinomial because we don't want that -3 at the end. I have told you guys before, I love doing this in 2 steps. I think it's much easier to just add the 3 first and then figure out what the heck you want that number to be. Okay. So basically I do this, and then I'm like, okay, what do I want in the blank? What do I want as a perfect square trinomial? Well, 0.25 is half of that. 0.25 times 0.25 is 0.0625. So add 0.0625, but you have to add it to both sides because you've got to keep things balanced. Okay, so then on the left we get x minus 0.25 squared equals 3.0625. Ta-da! Sorry for the little squiggly line there. It's not a negative sign. It's just x minus 0.25 squared equals 3.0625. Okay. Then we should take the square root of both sides, and we get x minus 0.25 equals... I could probably guess here. I'm pretty sure the square root of 3.0625 is 1.75. I am not totally 100% sure on that, though, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use my calculator and check. And I am right. It is 1.75. I should have gone with my gut. But you know what? Better safe than sorry. Even the math teachers have to use the calculator to help out every once in a while. So we should get, oops, absolute value. Yeah, that was almost a boo-boo. Absolute value of x minus 0.25 equals 1.75. And then again, set up your two problems, and we'll get x equals 2 and x equals negative 1.5. I'm not going to show the basically one step in there because I've ran out of room on my paper. So you should get 2 and negative 1.5. Okay. On to the quadratic formula. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tricky one for the quadratic formula. Just a little tricky because I want to make sure you're ready for all the hard stuff, not all the easy stuff. Okay. So let's try 3x squared minus 8x plus 6 equals 2. Okay, so solve this one using the quadratic formula. 3x squared minus 8x plus 6 equals 2. All right. I'll give you a second to deal with quadratic formula on that one, and then we'll take a look at the discriminant really quickly, and then that'll be that. Okay, so again, this is just a quick rundown of what's on your test. You know, if you're feeling comfortable with all this, great. If you're not, you know, we've got some time. We've got Monday. Some of you have Monday in class. Some of you don't have Monday in class. You may have had class on Friday already. But you know, you've got time Monday and community time too. You know, and obviously, if I'm not at school tomorrow or even Tuesday, then your test is getting bumped. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, so first thing we need to do is subtract 2 from both sides because the quadratic formula requires that you have an equation, quadratic equation that's equal to 0. And then we can identify our A as 3, our B as negative 8, and our C as 4. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to use quadratic formula. So it's x equals negative b, but our b is negative 8, so we're going to make that positive 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 8 squared is 64, minus 4 times a is 3 times c is 4, all over 2a, so 2 times 3. So again, that's x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So here's what that looks like when I plug it in. And again, I already did the negative b part with my negative 8. That's why it's positive 8. And I already squared my b because I like to do that first. I don't know. It's just me, I guess. So let's see. If I type in all that stuff that's underneath my square root, I get 16. So now I get 8 plus or minus the square root of 16 all over 6, because 2 times 3 is 6. I'm just going to split it up into 2 right when I take my square root, so I get 8 plus 4 over 6, 8 minus 4 over 6. Woo-woo. And then I get 12 over 6, which is 2, and I get negative 2 over 6, which is negative 1/3. So I get 2 and negative 1/3. Hooray. Last thing on our list is the discriminant, okay? So with the discriminant, basically what you're going to do is you're going to take b squared minus 4ac part of the quadratic formula, and you're just going to calculate what that is, okay? And then you're going to see what type of number you get and figure out what types of solutions you will get from there, okay? So if we've got b squared minus 4ac, the key is, since this is part of the quadratic formula, you still need to make sure that you are getting your equation equal to 0 first. So get your equation equal to 0 first, find a, b, and c, and then calculate b squared minus 4ac. Here's what we're going to do to make this just a little bit easier. I'm going to assume that you can do b squared minus 4ac. Because if you can do the quadratic formula, you can definitely figure out what one part of it is, right? Right, right, right. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some numbers, okay? I'm going to give you 4 different numbers, in fact. Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 different numbers here, and this is what I got from 4 different discriminants. So I calculated b squared minus 4ac 4 times. The first time I did it, I got 48. The second time I did it, I got 64. The third time I did it, I got negative 36, and the fourth time I got 0. Now, on your test, you're actually going to have to calculate it yourself. Okay, but I'm not trying to trick you anywhere in there. They're normal-looking quadratics. Just make sure they're equal to 0. Okay, so let's say those are the 4 discriminants that you calculated. That I gave you 4 discriminant problems, and those are the 4 numbers you calculated. I want you to tell me what kinds of solutions you get. So remember, your choices are 2 rational, 2 irrational, 1 rational, and no solution. 2 irrational doesn't happen unless we've got some weird situation where, nah, I'm not going to even say it. That's not possible. Don't put 2 irrational on your test. 2 irrational is a trick. Okay, so for 48, if you took the square root of 48, you would get a weird decimal, so we'd get 2 irrational. For 64, when we take the square root, we'd get 8, so we're going to get 2 rational. Square root of negative 36, 36 looks pretty. The negative doesn't so much. We'd get no solution. And the tricky one is 0. For that one, we'd get 1 rational because we'd be adding and subtracting 0, so we'd get the same answer. Guys, this is all that's on your test. I mean, I know it seems like there's a decent amount of stuff, but if you think about it, that whole first section is just longer and shorter versions of the same problem, because eventually all we did is make an absolute value problem bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so I mean, that's really all that's on your test. There's no time limit on your test except for I need you to finish it in class, but that's 70 minutes, so you should be fine. Okay, so Algebra 1, you guys are Tuesday. Algebra 2, you guys are Wednesday, unless for some reason I am not there either Monday or Tuesday, in which case then we'll be okay. And we'll just bump that test until Thursday, Friday instead. Okay, so if you need to see me tomorrow at all, you know, recess and community time, you know, should be okay for the most part. Community time, definitely, we should be okay with tomorrow. So come see me if you got further questions, and if you're watching this on YouTube later, you know, I mean, hey, feel free to email me questions. Answering math is hard over email, but you know, I can do the best that I can anyway. Okay, that's it. So hope you learned something, and good luck on your test whenever we end up taking it.